Okay. All right. So thank you for taking the time to join me today for our third session for University Malaysia Terengganu. And this session will be focusing on how to select the best journal for your own manuscript through the Web of Science resources, like the Web of Science platform, as well as this other platform called Journal Citation Reports. So in my last session with you, I believe we went through the Q1 to Q4 journals from Journal Citation Reports. And this is exactly the same platform, but I will be sharing with you some strategies on how to identify the most suitable journals for your manuscript at any stage in your research career. Okay? And again, my name is Julian, and I am based in Singapore as a solution consultant for the Web of Science group. I've been to Terengganu a couple of times already, and always nice to be there because I know you do a lot of marine research, and marine life is also one of my interests. Okay, so today let's start with Journal Citation Reports and Web of Science and how you can select your best journals for your manuscript. Okay. So on the slide here, I have 5 main strategies that I like to recommend to all users. Some of you who have actually attended my session before at UMT, you might already have seen these strategies. But I would share some additional tips with you as I go along. Okay? So if you are a new early career researcher or a new PhD student entering PhD studies, sometimes it can be quite overwhelming where you are not very sure where you can publish your research. Okay? And the other question that comes to mind is, do I choose the journal before I start my research, or do I do my research first and then choose my journal? There is no right or wrong answer. Both ways are fine. But ultimately, you need to know why you are choosing this journal in the first place. Okay? So these strategies will apply in different stages, and as a new early career researcher or new PhD student, I would recommend looking for government accredited journals first. Why? Because these are domestically recognized, nationally recognized journals that are accredited by MOE. Okay? So where can you find these journals? You can find this on the MOE, Ministry of Higher Education, from today's context. Okay, so Ministry of Higher Education's Malaysian Citation Index. That is where you can find all the nationally accredited journals from Malaysia. Okay, these journals are usually the university press journals from each major universities within Malaysia. Now, these journals are also good quality journals that you can start with. Okay? Their acceptance rate tends to be a little bit higher than the average ones that are international. Okay? So these would be a good list to start with. The second strategy, once you have gotten some experience in publications or publishing of papers, okay, you might want to go one step further to look for internationally recognized journals globally. Okay, so where do you find these internationally recognized journals? These would be journals that are sitting on international publishers' platforms or international citation platforms, for example, the Web of Science. Okay, so journals that are indexed in Web of Science are considered international journals, okay, because they are read by an international audience. Okay. Now, later on, I will be explaining to you whether I'll be explaining to you the differences between journals indexed in the Web of Science, okay, and also journals indexed in JCR, whether they are the same or different. Okay. The third strategy is to then look for journals that have high rank and prestige. When I talk about high rank and prestige, what I'm referring to is journals that have an impact factor and they must fall under the upper quartiles of their impact factor, meaning Q1 or Q2 kind of journals in JCR. Okay? I will explain a bit about quartiles later on, as well as how journals rank within journal citation reports. Okay? The last two strategies, which is journals aiming for journals that get cited very quickly, as well as journals that get cited for a long time, pertains to you as a researcher. Okay? So if you are a PhD student studying in UMT, you probably have about 3 years to publish maybe 2 papers or 1 paper. So your time is very limited. But imagine this, if you publish your paper, say in your 2nd year, okay, and this gets citations before you even graduate. Isn't that a good thing for your resume? It is. Okay? So there is a strategy to identify journals that get cited very quickly, and we have a metric within JCR, which is called the immediacy index, that will help you to identify these sets of journals. Okay? The second strategy at the bottom, the last strategy, which is about getting cited for a long time, pertains to anyone who wants to continue in research career, or anyone that wants to continue as a teaching faculty member. Why? Because as a teaching faculty member, I believe it is one of your KPIs to continue publishing, and as long as and to make sure that your publications do get citations coming in. Okay? And I believe it is also one of the criteria which the ministry will evaluate a university on. That's why if you are able to identify journals that get cited for a longer time, this is very good for your career in the long run and very good for the university. And there is a metric within JCR that would help you to identify these sets of journals. And this metric is called the cited half-life. So the cited half-life is usually measured in terms of number of years. Okay, and I will show you the details later. So on the screen now, you have the full 5 strategies that I like to share with you so that you can easily identify the journals to publish in. Okay. So for some of you, you might not have heard about JCR if you didn't attend the last session that we had. Okay. So I will repeat this. The Journal Citation Report is an annual report that is published once a year, usually in the middle of June. Okay? And when this report is published, it actually includes the metric called the Journal Impact Factor for all journals that are indexed in the Journal Citation Reports. Okay? So for 2020's report, it will come out this year in June 2020, and it will showcase the 2019 impact factors. But before June, the latest impact factor you have would be a 2018 impact factor. Also, to note, Journal Citation Reports journals include only the science and the social science journals that are indexed in these 2 citation indexes on Web of Science. Okay? It will not include arts and humanities, neither will it include books or conference proceedings. Okay? So these are all science and social science journals. So if there are any arts and humanities researchers on the line, okay, if you are keen to publish in impact factor journals, okay, I would suggest to look at the social sciences journals, because sometimes there will be cross-discipline journals in social sciences for arts and humanities. Okay. What sets journal citation reports apart is 2 things. Number 1, we are not a publisher, so we do not own any rights to any journals, therefore making JCR unbiased and objective ranking for journals. Okay? At the same time, every year we do an evaluation for the journals, and we will weed out any predatory and non-peer-reviewed journals. Okay? When I mention predatory, a lot of early career researchers get very confused, because they will say, so how do I identify these predatory journals? There are many essays out there about predatory journals. Some are conflicting, okay? But ultimately, you need to verify the journal's claims. Okay, that is the one most important thing. So if you look at a journal and on the website it says that I have an impact factor of this, make sure you look at JCR to ensure that they actually have this impact factor. Or if the journal actually claims that, oh, I am indexed in Web of Science, okay, look into Web of Science and check, are they indeed indexed in the Web of Science? So any claims that the journals make on their website has to be verified. If you're able to verify this, it is quite safe that these are journals that are non-predatory. If you're not able to verify some of these claims, then there will be a question mark that you probably need some help to evaluate again before you submit your paper to these journals. Okay? Now, this is the Web of Science core collection. So the indexes here on the screen, I'm going to show you quickly. Okay. So these indexes, what these stand for are Science Citation Index, Social Science Citation Index, Arts Humanities Citation Index, Emerging Sources Citation Index, Books and Conference Proceedings Citation Indexes. Okay? So everything you see here, this is what we call the Web of Science core collection. Okay? The difference is Emerging Sources Citation Index and Books and Conference Proceedings, as well as Arts, would cover journals that have no impact factor. Okay? Only the science and social science journals will have an impact factor, and this would be the JCR. So to make it a bit more clearer, when your university says you need to publish in journals that are indexed in Web of Science, okay, it means everything here in the core collection. If your university says you must publish in a Q1 journal on Web of Science, it means look for journals in JCR and within Q1. Okay, so that is the main difference that I'm referring to here. Okay. So how do you find these journals in Web of Science? Okay. In my first session in this series, I explained about Web of Science platform. So on the Web of Science platform, you are able to search for articles quite easily, but there will not be a clear list of journals within the Web of Science platform. So when you want to look for Web of Science journals, a list of them, okay, I would suggest that you go to this website called mjl.clarivate.com. Okay, this is what we call the master journal list. And from this master journal list, you will be able to search for the journals based on the various citation indexes that are in the core collection. So every journal here may or may not have an impact factor. So again, only the science and the social science citation indexes will have journals that have impact factor. Okay. Another thing to note for Emerging Sources Citation Index, this citation index covers all disciplines. These usually form journals that are fairly newly indexed in Web of Science, that require at least 2 years to build up on impact. Once they have built up on impact, they will then be given impact factors if they qualify. Okay. I'm going to pause here to have a look at the chat screen to see if there's any questions so far. Okay, no questions. So I will just proceed. So the next strategy that I want to share with you is about finding the journals that have high rank and prestige. These would be your impact factor journals within Q1 to Q4 in JCR. Okay. Before I go there, I just wanted to share with you how the impact factor is calculated. So this is the formula. Don't worry, I will not test you. Okay. The impact factor for each year is calculated based on the content from the 2 prior years, meaning the articles and reviews published in, for example, now 2016 and 2017, and the citations for the full year in 2018 for these items. Okay, so this is the formula. And also, there are many different types of impact factors out there, things like site factor, global impact factor, universal impact factor, but there is only one proprietary journal impact factor that is from Clarivate. Okay, and this comes from JCR, Journal Citation Reports. Now, the next part is about choosing your journals. Yes, impact factor is very important. Yes, impact factor indicates some kind of prestige to the journals. Okay. However, if you're choosing a journal only based on their journal impact factor, it is an improper use of an evaluation of that journal, because different journals actually publish different types of content. So it depends very much on your manuscript. For example, whether it is a full text research paper, research article, for example, or is it a review article? Okay, different journals tend to place different emphasis on reviews as well as articles. Okay, so that is something that you have to take note of. Also, depending on your subject area, impact factors might be good or poor. So in order to answer this question, is impact factor of 3.45 good or poor? Okay, it depends on which subject area you're talking about, because different areas have different average impact factors. So if this category has the highest impact factor of 4, then 3.45 is considered a good impact factor. But if in this category it is 9 that is the highest, then 3.45 may not be so good. Okay? So on the screen, this is just an example of the subject categories covered within JCR. And if you can see the corresponding aggregate impact factors, different subject areas tend to have different aggregate impact factors. All right. In terms of quartiles, okay, there are different ways of measuring quartiles in different platforms. Okay, so for JCR on Web of Science, okay, how we determine the quartiles is very simple. We will take each subject category's journals. So let's say, for example, subject category 1 has 100 journals. We will rank these 100 journals based on impact factor, with the highest impact factor at the top and the lowest impact factor at the bottom. And we will then slice this into 4. The top 25% will be your Q1 journals, followed by Q2, Q3, and Q4. So depending on the number of journals indexed in each subject category, okay, the journal might sit in different quartiles. Now, at this point, some of you might ask me about the quartiles in JCR versus the quartile in, for example, Scimago. Okay, some of you might know Scimago. So the most common question I have is, this journal is in Q1 in Scimago, but Q3 in JCR. Why? The most straightforward answer is because JCR and Scimago index different number of journals in the different subjects. So remember that I mentioned that we slice the full list into 4. So depending on the number of journals, the quartiles will be different for that same journal. Okay, so I hope that I've answered that frequently asked question for you. So now I'm going to share my screen to show you how you can access JCR again. Okay, can someone put in the chat box whether you can see my screen currently? Can you see the UMT Libraries website? Okay, very good. All right. So from the UMT's website, you probably need to do a user login first. Okay, and then go to e-resources, go to Web of Science, and open Web of Science. And from Web of Science, there is a JCR, Journal Citation Reports here. And you can click through and it will take you to Journal Citation Reports. So in the last session, I've actually showed you how to search for a journal. Okay? I actually showed you how to browse by category. Okay? Now to search for a journal, to verify whether this journal actually has an impact factor, you can simply type that journal's name here. So say for example, if you come across a journal called Research Front, okay, you can just type in Research Front. Okay, so as you type, there will be suggestions here. Okay, and once you type in the full journal name, if it's not existing in JCR, it will say no results found. Okay, so this is one way of how you can verify whether a journal is indeed indexed in JCR. Okay, now I have a question here. I have two questions actually. So the quartiles may vary in WAS and Scimago. Which one to prioritize? Okay, so earlier on I mentioned that the quartiles might be different. Which one to prioritize depends very much on your university. So if the university says you can only publish in a Q1 journal in JCR or Web of Science, then you have to prioritize the one in Web of Science. Okay? If they say, oh, you can publish a journal, publish in a journal in Scimago, okay, then you can just publish in any of the Scimago journals. Okay? So prioritizing it depends on the individual university. So if you ask me from Clarivate, the one that has more prestige, I would say WAS, okay, because our selection criteria is very strict and very transparent. So any journal that has all 28 criteria fulfilled will get an impact factor. If they don't fulfill one of the 28 criteria, they will be kicked out of that list. Okay? So in terms of strict evaluation of journals, I believe Web of Science is more strict. Okay, so for more prestige, you would look for WAS. Okay, and WAS tends to be more internationally recognized by international publishers. Okay, so international publishers like Springer, Nature, for example, their impact factor would indicate the journal impact factor from JCR. Okay, so that's something you have to take note of. Can we open JCR without using UMT library website? If you have never registered, okay, so for example, if you are first time using Web of Science and you have never registered for a Web of Science account before, okay, you will definitely have to log in through UMT library website. If, however, within the last 6 months, you have registered for an account on Web of Science, you can use that same account to access JCR. Okay, but because now we are all accessing this from our homes due to the remote access, because we are now all working from home, okay, I would recommend that you go through the UMT library website. Okay, because you have to log in with the Easy Proxy from the library before you can access the resources that are subscribed for you. Okay, if you are on campus in UMT, you can access this seamlessly without logging in. Okay, but if you're off campus, you need to log in through the library website. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so let's go back to the demo. Okay, so I'm going to show you the browse by category, and then later on I'll address more questions. Okay, so if it's the first time you're using JCR, you can look for a list of journals within your own subject area by choosing the categories here. So if, for example, I am in plant sciences, okay, I will go to this 228. So if I click 228, this will be the 228 journals indexed under plant sciences for journal citation reports. Okay? If I want to identify the quartile journals, okay, I will have Q1. I can choose Q1 and Q2 journals and submit. Now this list here would show me the Q1 and Q2 journals under plant sciences. Okay? And you can download this list for your own reference at any time. Now, from here, you can do some kind of evaluation of the journals listed. So let's say, for example, you're interested to publish in this journal, Journal of Experimental Botany. Okay? Click on this journal. It will open up a separate tab to give you the journal's profile page. So this page gives you all the information you need about that journal. Okay? From the title, ISSN, publisher, category it is in JCR, okay? The language, as well as the number of issues published in a year. For postgraduate students, because you have 3 years only, I would recommend that you identify journals that have at least 4 issues a year. Okay? Because if it is a journal that has an impact factor, the tendency of the queue for submission will be very long. So if you submit your journal, your manuscript to a journal that has only 2 issues a year, you're joining a very long queue before the editor-in-chief can actually look at your article. Okay? So I would recommend you look for journals that have a higher frequency in terms of publication. The next section you can look at is the impact factor trend for this journal. If it remains fairly consistent over the years, over the past 5 years, it's quite safe. Okay? The only issue that you might come across is if this was a Q4 journal. If this was a Q4 journal and the impact factor keeps decreasing, okay, then this journal has a very good chance of being kicked off the JCR list next time. All right? So something to take note of. If you want to aim for a journal to publish in, I would recommend aiming for at least a Q2 or Q3. Try not to go for a Q4 journal, purely because if their impact factor keeps decreasing, and in that particular year, many journals are performing very well, okay, then this Q4 journal might be kicked off this list. Because for us in JCR and Web of Science, we try and keep the number of journals fairly consistent for each subject category. All right? So that's something to remember. The next thing is the citation distribution. This is an interesting one because the dark blue lines here represent the number of articles. Okay? The light blue are reviews, and purple would be things like maybe case reports or something like that. So other forms of documents, or it hasn't been categorized under articles or reviews yet. Okay. But in general, when you see more dark blue, it means there are more citations for articles compared to reviews. That's something interesting, right? Because most of the time we think that review papers get citations faster and higher. Okay? But for this journal, the articles tend to get more citations. So if you are publishing a review paper, yes, you can publish here. Okay? There is a way for you to get citations here. But if you are publishing an article, the chances of you getting citations will be higher here. All right? Okay, at this point, I would just address some of the questions in the chat box. Okay, why every time I click JCR from WAS, it goes to Web of Science group? Okay, so, and the next question is, after this, can you repeat the step when you access the library website and go to Web of Science? Okay, so from here, from the library's website, you can log in first, user login, and then go to e-resources. Under e-resources, you would find Web of Science and click Web of Science. From here, if you click journal citation reports, okay, it should open up as the journal citation reports homepage. Okay. If it doesn't go there, what I would recommend you to do is maybe drop me an email with a screenshot of your issue and the pathway that you have gone through. If you can record a video on your handphone, that will be even better. Okay, and then you email that to me, and I will have a look. Okay, and I will direct you to our help desk so that we can troubleshoot that for you. Okay. Now, let's go back to the journal profiles page. Okay. The next thing is for reading the journal. Now, I've spoken to a lot of early career researchers or postgraduate students. When I ask them, do you read the journals that you want to publish in? 50% of them tell me no. Okay, the reason is because sometimes they just purely follow the recommendation from their professors. Okay, because the professors are more experienced, they say, okay, my professor said I should publish here, so I'll just send my manuscript without looking at the content of that journal. Okay, the danger of that is that you might not be, your research might not fulfill the aims and scopes of that journal. Okay, so in order to identify that journal correctly and whether it really suits your manuscript, always read the journal's articles. But I know that postgraduate students have really got no time. So you will complain, oh, I got so many things to read already. How do I choose the correct papers to read that is worth my time? Okay, so from here on this list, these are the contributing items to the impact factor for this journal. Meaning to say, these are the more highly cited journal articles for this journal. So this could be your starting ground for the reading list for you. When you read these articles, you are also able to see the types of writing patterns or the kinds of research that attract this journal. So you're able to maybe design your research so that it can suit this journal. Okay. Now, as you scroll down the list, you will then see other key indicators. So for today's session, I actually explained about immediacy index and cited half-life. Okay? Immediacy index is very important in the sense that this is what we call the 1-year impact factor. So if your article is published in this journal this year, what is your chance of getting citations in this first year of publication? Okay? Any number that is above 1 will be a good chance, meaning okay, it can access, you can actually get a citation once within the first year of publication. Okay? If the cited in terms of cited half-life, for example, this is based on number of years. Okay? So 8.1 represents years. So if you publish in this journal, the chances of you getting citations over 8 years is quite high. Okay? So these are how these two metrics are explained. Okay? Anything above 1, you have a high chance of getting 1 citation in the first year. Okay? This would mean 8.1 years of citation lifespan for your article. Okay? When you scroll further to the bottom, the last part of this profile, okay, you will also see things like the contributions by country. Why is this important? So let's say, for example, now I'm in Singapore and Malaysia, and my authors are all from Malaysia, for example. Then my contributing country is considered as Malaysia. So if you see here in the top 10 countries, there is no reflection of a Southeast Asia country. Okay? You can kind of assume that more research is focused around China, US, and European countries. Okay? So if you are from Southeast Asia country and you really want to publish in this journal, okay, you might want to look at a co-author from these other countries. Okay? They will then be able to give you the US perspective or the China perspective on your area of research. Okay, so that's just one suggestion that I have for you. So this is the overview of a journal before you can decide, oh, okay, after looking at all these different metrics and trends, yes, this journal is suitable for me. I will then submit my article here. Okay, so these are just some things that you can look at. Okay, now I would go into the chat box and address this. I cannot access the WAS because cannot log into the library website. Okay, if you cannot log into the library's website, but you do have a login ID and password, I would suggest that you try and contact your library's help desk email address. At this point in time, I'm not sure whether they are able to access that email. Okay, but alternatively, you can also drop me an email and I try and direct your questions to your librarian. Okay, so try and contact your library first and say that you couldn't log into the library's website from home. Okay, and they will try and solve that issue for you. Okay, because I will not have access to the library's login system. Okay, so now let's go back to the slides here. Okay, so I've actually showed you the two okay. Okay, there's a librarian on board. Is Hafzan? Hafzan, are you a librarian? Okay. So Hafzan mentioned that for UMT you need to go to Easy Proxy first. Let me see whether I can find the Easy Proxy page for you. Okay. Can you confirm, is this the correct page for the Easy Proxy, Hafzan? No? Okay, Hafzan, if you want to drop a link with the Easy Proxy, okay, then you can share it with everyone. Okay, thank you. Let me have a quick look. If the Easy Proxy website is really not working, then that is something that you have to contact your library for. Okay. So then they will be able to address that. Okay. Now, the next part would be very important for all of you, because if you are all postgraduate students, okay, please do be mentally prepared that your manuscript might be rejected by a journal. Okay, it is part and parcel of the research life cycle. Okay, but if you do get rejected, okay, there is a way for you to find alternative journals to send your manuscripts to. Okay, within JCR, you have this thing called the journals relationship wheel. Okay, on the journal relationship wheel, where do you find this? Okay, from journal citation reports. So remember this journal that we were looking at? You can browse down and go to journal relationships. Okay, this journal relationships would show all the different journals that have citation relationships with this original one, meaning they do cite content from each other. Okay, when they cite content from each other, it kind of shows that they have similar research areas. So these journals would then be your backup plan. Once, if you get rejected by this original journal, these are your plan B, plan C, and plan D, and so on. So this would be an option for you to look for alternative journals to submit your manuscript. Okay. Now, the final thing that I wanted to share with all of you today, okay, is this thing called Publons. Once you have published your paper in a journal, you can create your own profile on Publons. Okay, Publons. You can create your own profile. It is like a Facebook profile for researchers. Okay, put in all your publications into your Publons profile. This will then help other users around the world to see who you are as a researcher. Okay? But also, in order to help you to write better articles, we have an online academy. Okay? I think now you have a lot of time on your hands because the classes have stopped and so on. So we have an online learning module called Publons Academy. What this is it is a set of 10 online modules for you to learn how to be a good peer reviewer. What do you mean by being a good peer reviewer? Okay, I'm not asking you to be a peer reviewer, but I'm asking you to go into the minds of a peer reviewer. Why? Because the peer reviewer sits between you and your paper getting accepted. If you're able to understand what is important to a peer reviewer, the tendency for you to improve on your writing for your own manuscript will be higher. Okay, so this is kind of like a capacity building exercise for you. So just go to Publons Community Academy, and this would be your free peer review training course that you can take at this point in time. Okay, so I've come to the end of my session. Okay, so I will actually address some questions now. Okay. So I see that we have friends who have actually shared the Easy Proxy login. I'm going to try going in there now. Okay. Okay, so log into Easy Proxy from here. Am I correct? Okay. So this is the Easy Proxy login. I'm going to share the URL in the chat box so that everyone can see. Okay. If you have any issues with logging in on the Easy Proxy, there is the contact email for your library here. Okay. I don't think you can call them at the moment because the library might be closed, but drop them an email. They might be checking it periodically now because users need to access Easy Proxy to get to the library's resources at this point in time. Okay. So do drop them an email to this psnz@umt.edu.my so that you can sort out the Easy Proxy login. Okay. The other question is, okay, do we need to register to go into Publons? Okay, as a user, you can just browse the researchers list here, okay, without logging in. If you want to create your own Publons profile, then you have to click register here, okay, and you register for your own Publons profile. Okay, and then is there anything else? Oh, someone didn't get the recorded links for the past 2 sessions. Okay, what you can do is for those of you who didn't receive the previous 2 sessions recording, please drop me an email. Okay, this is my email address, dju-lyn.chng@clarivate.com. Let me know which 2 recordings you didn't receive. Okay, if you're using your personal email, please indicate that you're from UMT so that I know. Okay, and then I'll send you the link through your email. Okay. Is there any other question? Is there a way to check article acceptance rate? This is always the golden question, right? Is there a way to check an article's acceptance rate in JCR? I'm afraid not, because usually the article acceptance rates varies across different journals, okay? And this is something that is proprietary information to the journal themselves. So they don't usually show that so transparently. Sometimes some journals do include their acceptance rate in their journal's homepage, okay? But not all. Okay? So my answer is you have to go and check the individual journal's website for the acceptance rate. Okay. When already logged in using EasyProxy, which to click then after. Okay, so after you have logged into EasyProxy, I am assuming you will be seeing the Easy e-resources page. Okay. From here, either in social sciences or science and technology, there is a link to Web of Science here. So from Web of Science, you just click Web of Science, and it should open up the Web of Science page on a separate tab, and you go to Journal Citation Reports from this. Okay, I'll be working with your library to include a separate link for Journal Citation Reports in future. Okay, but in the meantime, this is the only way you can access JCR. Okay. The other one is I have to search my own topic. Why my topic only show open access, not the hot papers or other types? Are you, so Shirley Hin, are you referring to Web of Science platform? Okay. So while Shirley Hin responds, okay, so Shirley Hin said yes, it's to Web of Science. Okay, so I'm not sure which topics you were searching for, but when you search for, let's say, marine pollution, okay, now I'm digressing a bit from JCR. So now I'm talking about Web of Science. When you search for Web of Science for a specific topic, you may or may not see highly cited papers or hot papers if there is none in that topic. Okay, so if you don't see highly cited papers and you don't see hot papers, okay, number one, it means in that topic that you're searching, there are no highly cited papers and there are no hot papers. Okay, so your search was dioxins. Okay, I'm going to just try dioxins. And I believe your access is from 1970 onwards. So let's see. Search. Okay. You should be able to see highly cited papers. Was that how you searched? Okay. Maybe for the benefit of everyone, we can take this offline, okay, through an email. So just record down your search process on your handphone and email it to me, and then I will try and replicate your search process from my side. Okay. What was the other question? Okay, one final question before we go. Okay? For the immediacy index, etc., can we only view by individual journals, or is there something like a table or list? For the individual metrics, you can only see it individually on each journal's profile. Okay, so there's no list of immediacy index of 1.5 and so on. Okay, so you have to look at each individual journal. Okay, so this brings me to the end of my sharing. I hope you have found this useful. And like I mentioned, recordings will be sent to everyone. If you haven't received it, just drop me an email with your university's name and which sessions you are missing. Okay? The final session for this series is on 6th of April, which is next month. Okay? It will be about how to identify potential collaborators for your research and how to create a good public research profile on Publons and Web of Science. And I'll also show you Insights, which is a benchmarking and analytical tool, which is quite interesting because you will be able to see who are the top producing universities in a specific subject area in the world. Okay, so the next session will be slightly longer, about 1 hour. Okay, but I guarantee you it will be very interesting. Okay, so I hope to see all of you in the next session, and stay safe. Right. Thank you, everyone.